White tiles gleamed under fluorescent lights, the smell of antiseptic sharp in my nose as I paced the corridor. The doors of St. Jude's Hospital blurred past me, a streak of beige and grimy scuff marks, reminders that healing and suffering happened here hourly, endlessly. My aunt's voice sliced through the hush, harsh and unyielding. "You're a fool, Ellie, all that school and you want to chase stories." She jabbed a finger at my chest, her features arranged into an all-too-familiar mask of impatience. "You could have been a lawyer, a doctor, you have the mind for it, don't throw it away on nonsense." She shook her head, curly hair trembling with each movement. My uncle, arms folded near the vending machine, joined in. "Lowe's Angels doesn't need another truth seeker. This city'll eat you alive, kid." I bristled. My pulse hammered at my wrists. "I don't care what you think. I'm not going to spend my life behind some desk or parroting what I'm told. I want to find the stories that matter." My mother slumped on a plastic chair along the wall, eyes rimmed red from waiting on my grandmother's test results. She tugged at my sleeve, tired and pleading. "Can't you just be practical for once? Think of your future. This investigative journalism, it's for people who have safety nets." My voice came out colder than I'd felt. "Somebody has to care, somebody has to look, even if it gets ugly." A brittle silence stretched between us, punctuated by the faraway ding of an elevator. In that moment our family felt like a silhouette, outlines pinned in sharp relief under the relentless hospital lights. My anger burned under my skin, but I let it push me forward. I turned on my heel and walked out, hands balled into fists. Behind me I heard my aunt mutter, "Ridiculous," the word twisting in the sterile air. It was years before I heard that word less often. The LA sun always felt exaggerated. It lit up everything, nice and ugly alike, turning grime gold and broken windows into mirrors. That's what I told myself on the ride to my first internship at the Oath, a progressive rag on Figueroa that paid me barely enough to cover bus fare and instant coffee. I worked late, burnt my palms on cheap diner mugs, and took stories nobody else wanted. People on staff laughed when I pitched leads about redlining in Englewood or dubious city contracts on Skid Row. No one wanted to listen to some neurotic 22-year-old who scribbled in dollar store notebooks and asked stupid questions. "You want to be the next Woodward and Bernstein or something?" my then-boyfriend Miguel used to tease, swinging his feet up onto the fire escape outside my shared Koreatown apartment. "Everybody's already heard it all." He said it with a gentleness that strung. He'd press his warm hand into the small of my back and ask why I couldn't just relax, just be happy, just be normal. I'd sit up at night, light from the neighbor's billboard spilling into my window, and wonder if maybe everyone was right, maybe truth didn't matter, maybe I should want something smaller, safer. But every time I tried to let it go, I'd remember my grandmother's voice, raspy from too many years of chain smoking, telling stories about the family leaving Zacatecas, about promises broken and made again. Her words stitched inside me the idea that silence breeds rot and that there's power in bearing witness, so I kept digging. Once, after a story I wrote about housing scams in Boyle Heights got a local councilman booted, my first byline that anyone actually noticed, my cousin sent me a text. "Told them you're making it, Auntie says you're just lucky, LOL, pride flickered but didn't last. The city, the industry both barreled forward uncaring, the paper shrank, staff laid off, and for months I hustled odd jobs, ghostwriting true crime podcasts for clickbait paydays, ashamed to visit family. But I kept at it, burned out, alone, angry at the world and myself. I pieced together stringer gigs and made rent by the skin of my teeth. It was the case of Alex Mendez that finally changed everything. He'd been missing 4 months when his sister, Maribel, reached out after reading one of my smaller pieces online. She came to meet me at a Koreatown cafe, hands trembling around her phone. "They don't care," she whispered. Dark circles shadowed her eyes, her nails were bitten to the quick. He was troubled when he left, but he wouldn't just disappear. I looked into her face and saw the echo of my grandmother, the same defiance, the same grit tangled with desperation. I promised her I'd listen. Digging into Alex's last few weeks led me down crumbling alleys behind downtown motels, into grim, overbright police stations and pimp-proclighted city offices, chasing scraps nobody else bothered to chase. I charted missing persons reports, dug up pay stubs, and spent late nights reconstructing timelines while friends dropped away, tired of my obsessions. All the while, the words of my family played on a loop in my mind. Ridiculous, foolish, impractical. 2 months into my search, I traced Alex's last call to a private halfway house run by a so-called rehabilitation nonprofit that had landed city funding. One of the staff, a man whose name was on too many lawsuits, threatened me outside a mini-mart. "People disappear out here all the time. Don't make trouble you can't handle," he hissed, hands tight around his car keys. I was scared more than I cared to admit, but the anger stayed, and behind it a kind of serenity carved out of necessity. If I gave up, Alex would be another lost body, another case file quietly closed. I stood my ground. I filed complaints, leaks, FOIA requests. I fought for documents. When the oath ignored me, I wrote anyway, posting my findings string by string on my own blog. Reddit picked it up. Local activists pushed it forward. The story broke open, a web of exploitation, city money funneled into illegal sober homes, vulnerable people vanished, nobody watching. After 4 months and a string of late-night calls, the coroner's office phoned me, not Marable, not the police. They'd found Alex's body in an unmarked grave leased by the non-profit. When I told Marable, she screamed so loud she dropped the phone. I cried with her, hollow but present, but the story ran. LA Weekly, then the Times, then national papers picked it up. Those who'd mocked my stubbornness now wanted interviews. Politicians resigned, and city contracts dissolved overnight. The weeks that followed felt like skating on a fever, too much, too bright, too fast. Calls came in from publishers, radio stations, even a couple of networks offering me a staff role. My phone couldn't hold all the messages. I accepted a job at the Times, a contract, but the first real anchor I'd had in years. Reporters who'd ignored me now shook my hand, patted my back. I bought a new phone for my mother. I paid down her debts. For a moment I could breathe easy. I still kept that hospital corridor in my mind, the heat of rejection alive inside me, not for vengeance, but as a reminder of what it felt like to believe when no one else did. 3 years later, the city felt both larger and smaller. The skyline shimmered behind me as I drove up to my aunt's house in East LA on a stifling May afternoon, palms rattling in a vague breeze. The neighborhood was the same, bougainvillea curling along chain link, kids scrambling on skateboards past battered sedans, old men huddled under trimmed pepper trees. My chest tightened as I parked, hands slick on the steering wheel. I told myself I was calm, but my pulse drummed in my ears. This time it wasn't shame pushing me, but something like resolution. My uncle was there, pulling weeds along the sidewalk, his knee wrapped in a brace. He raised one eyebrow as I climbed out, keys clinking. "Back from your big important job, huh?" he called, half teasing, half unsure. I forced a quiet smile. "Just visiting." Inside, the air hummed with the usual chaos, pots banging, cousins shouting, the TV blaring a soap opera. My mother sat in the kitchen, flipping through her new phone, her raised voice cutting through. "Ellie, you eat yet? Let me make you something." Food meant love, so I let her fuss, warming tortillas on the stove. My aunt entered, wiping her hands on her skirt. "Heard you're in the papers again, important now." She laughed, but it was brittle around the edges. I set my shoulder bag down. "Not important. Just working." She looked at me, really looked, for the first time in years. Her eyes flickered with something wary, pride, envy, or maybe just confusion. "I saw that thing, the city council. You did that." Her voice trembled. I nodded. "I did." The room stilled just for a moment before the TV volume surged. My uncle wandered in, balancing a beer can, curiosity barely masked. "So, you really are making a living, huh? Not just scraping by?" I hesitated, then unzipped my bag and pulled out a glossy magazine. The cover, my face smaller than the photograph of Marable, the headline blazing bold. "How a journalist exposed LA's biggest sober home scandal." My younger cousin gasped, "That's you." I handed the magazine to my aunt. She held it gingerly as if it might burst into flame. They read in silence, eyes trailing over words that ached to have written, about Alex, about the hidden city, about truths that cost everything. For a long time, nobody spoke. My anger from years before had cooled into something gentler. I saw doubt flicker and die in each of their faces, replaced by something else, an uneasy recognition, acceptance edged with wonder. My aunt's voice broke, all rough and quiet. "Forgive me, Ellie, I didn't see, not really. You did something important. Your abuela would have been proud." My throat constricted, I swallowed. I just wanted to do right. Across the room, my uncle clapped a meaty hand on my shoulder. "Guess chasing stories ain't so ridiculous after all." He laughed, the sound ringing less defensively. I let the serenity settle in, warm and long overdue. The kitchen filled again with life, pots rattling, music swelling, my mother bustling over tortillas. For the first time in a decade, no one doubted why I'd left or questioned the shape of my dreams. Proof was in their hands, the story written, the truth no one could take away. After dinner, I sat outside as the sun bled tangerine behind the skyline, palm trees etched black against burning sky. Kids' laughter drifted down the block. I let my anger go, watched serenity take its place, quiet and full. Home didn't require explanation anymore. I had returned, not needing approval but finding it anyway, honest and hard-won. The city glimmered, endless and full of stories. I breathed deep, feeling for the first time that every step away had been a step toward everything I was meant to become. And I sat, safe at last in the truth I'd carried all this way, the scrappy, stubborn kind of hope that had always been mine.